Thank you so much for joining SAMHSA's Office of Recovery webinar series. Our webinar today is Recovery on Purpose, Strategies for Building a Purpose-Driven, Meaningful, and Sustained Life of Recovery. Our webinar series is to educate and provide key discussions in many recovery spaces. Each week, we are highlighting a theme for the week, and this week our focus is on the recovery dimension of purpose. Next week's theme will be on community. And we look at the importance of purpose as a motivator for positive change and how it can help the recovery process of people with mental health conditions and substance use disorders. Purpose means different things to different people. We're defining purpose as conducting meaningful daily activities such as going to work and or school, participating in volunteer activities, family caretaking or creative endeavors, and having the independence, income, and resources to participate in society. Everyone can find purpose in their lives, whether it's through career, creativity, or spirituality, and in daily activities that can help people stay focused and feeling positive. Here at SAMHSA, we are celebrating Recovery Month, a national observance held every September to promote awareness of the power of recovery from mental health and substance use conditions. It celebrates the millions of Americans in recovery and recognizes the contributions and accomplishments of people in recovery, their loved ones, and allies. Recovery events are celebrated around the nation and the world. And during Recovery Month, we also applaud the dedication of service providers, states, and communities who champion recovery. Recovery Month is intended to counter stigma and instill hope in the American public that recovery is possible. My name is Grace Lee, and I have the honor of serving as statistician within the Office of Recovery. And I will be facilitating the meeting today. And with me are also Lupe Ramos and Katera Aslami Tamplin, our public health advisors from the Office of Recovery. The Office of Recovery is charged with advancing recovery across the nation in partnership with people with lived experience, their families, and communities impacted by mental health and or substance use conditions. Our office has two major events happening this month. We just had our Walk for Recovery on September 5th. And coming up, we have the Star Awards and the Gallery of Hope art display on September 24th, which will also be live streamed. We will also be releasing fact sheets throughout the month as well. Thank you so much for your attendance and support during Recovery Month and throughout the year. Once the session is complete, we hope to have some time for questions and answers, and one of our staff will be monitoring the chat. And please direct any questions you have in the chat area. And again, thank you for attending. And during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation, we will also have a short evaluation survey linked in the chat and ask that you please complete that. It helps us in the Office Recovery and SAMHSA to get feedback from you to ensure our activities are of value to the field. And so today we have a great presenter to talk about recovery, along with her role as the principal investigator of the African American Behavioral Health Center of Excellence. Dr. Dawn Tyus is also the PI and the director of the Southeast Addiction Technology Transfer Center, a member of the Addiction Technology Transfer Center National Network, and a sister center to the new African American Behavioral Health Center of Excellence at Morehouse School of Medicine. And among the innovative programs she has spearheaded there are the center's Minority to Priority initiative, focusing on the strengths and needs of African Americans, and a faith initiative aimed at bridging secular and spiritual efforts to address substance use disorders called Let's Have the Conversation, One Voice, One Mission. Dr. Tyus is also on the board of the Georgia School of Addiction Studies and the advisory board of Clark Atlanta University's HBCU Cares. Dr. Tyus is affiliated with the following professional organizations: the American Counseling Association, Licensed Professional Counselors, National Board of Certified Counselors, and the National Association of Alcoholism and Drug Abuse Counselors. Dr. Tyus has years of experience working with adults, adolescents, children, couples, and families, and is a member of many professional boards. Dr. Tice received her PhD in counseling studies from Capella University and both her Master's of Education's degree in community counseling and her bachelor's in criminal justice from Mercer University. Dr. Tice is also a licensed professional counselor in the state of Georgia, where she provides family, individual, and group behavioral health therapy. She's also an approved clinical supervisor in the state of Georgia and a master addiction counselor. She has received a wide range of evidence-based therapeutic techniques, clinical training, and experience in work with diverse populations. Dr. Tice has stated that as a certified coach and licensed therapist, I understand that talking about our deepest issues are perceived differently in today's times. However, getting back to the basic matters and being open to new ideas can breed new beginnings. My goal is to help men and women find true self-happiness, self-reliance, and self-peace. I'm passionate about helping them walk in total healing and move from their past into a bright new future full of light and possibilities that we all are destined to have here while on Earth. And now I'll turn it over to our distinguished guest, Dr. Dawn Tice.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much. And I'm sitting here and I'm listening to my bio. Sound like I've been quite busy, but the most important thing for me is being able to show up and share. That's very important to me. And so as we go through this, let me just put this disclaimer out here. I do apologize. I'm home today and I don't have two screens. So if you see my notes, I do apologize ahead of time for that, technology. But one of the things is that as when Mr. Michael asked me to do this, I was so elated, and I kept trying to get out of it, but I just started to think about, I didn't want to do a research-based project, right? I really wanted to think about what it is when you think about Celebrate Recovery. So even before we get started, Celebrate Recovery and thinking about Recovery Month is a celebration for me. It's celebrating the people who have been on this road to recovery and who are really, really every day taking one step at a time. So I just want us to go down to our emojis and just put the celebrate, just hit that hat, and just I want to see them everywhere, just showing up that we're celebrating people across the country for their journey, for their success, for the resiliency that they showed. So just hit that before we even get started. So I can't really see them, but I'm taking, mine is going across the line, so my grid, but I'm hoping that everybody's just hidden and just let the people across the country know that we celebrate them. But this title, Recovering with Purpose, Strategies for Building a Purpose-Driven, Meaningful, and Sustainable Life of Recovery, is very, very important to me. As Grace read my bio, one of the things that I'm most passionate about is helping my clients, helping people on a daily basis really find happiness, healing, and have some sense of hope that they're going through. So Recovery Month really spreads that positive message that behavioral health is essential to overall health, prevention work, and that treatment is very effective, and that people can and do recover. So with this presentation, again, you won't find it filled with research, but I believe in research. So please don't run off and tell people, Dr. Tice, that you don't have to do research. I do believe in research, but more so in this particular presentation, you'll find positivity, you'll find hope, some level of gratitude and purpose. As a clinician, I think that from the inset of people coming to see me, that's what part of my job is. If you're coming to see me, I want to help you from the onset, not only find what your strengths are, but provide that level of hope and purpose for your life. I'm excited that I get to wake up every day and spread the message that treatment does work. Recovery does happen, and that people deserve to recover. People really do deserve to recover. And so as I was preparing this presentation, I know that we're really big in our center on lived experiences. So what better way to even get information about this presentation than someone who's very close to me. My baby brother, he's in long-term recovery, super excited, 15 years now. But I like to have conversations because I'm a scholar, and I've learned everything about recovery through the things that my family had to endure because of his addiction, as well as, my work and my research. But more than anything is I was talking to him and I said, I will have to do this presentation. This is what it's about. I said, if you had to really think about your recovery journey, what really provided you with that strength every day to get up? And what he said to me, which led me to this particular title, was he said, the thing that struck me the most is he said, I felt that I could recover when I was introduced to hope. So today, I hope as clinicians, I hope as individuals, a family member, a mom, a dad, or whatever your role may be for joining today, I hope today when you leave that you can take some of this information and instill just a little bit of an inkling of hope to let people know that they too can recover. So in doing so, this whole webinar, again, is really talking about how recovery is a lifestyle, but this presentation is designed to offer, again, practical tools, techniques, and inspiration for finding meaning, sustaining happiness, purpose, and hope during the recovery journey. And some of the things that I hope that you were able to walk away with today are really just some practical strategies for recovery, right? What are some of those tools that as a clinician that you could help individuals sustain that level of happiness? Even myself, sometimes I have to use these techniques. Sometimes I have to be the therapist to the therapist and utilize, even in my walk every day, just in life, I have to in some shape, form, or fashion, hold on and cultivate some level of hope and be resilient in the things that come and attack me from on a day-to-day basis. But I want us to start right here. When we think about individuals and we think about people, oftentimes we think about, and we've heard all of the stigma that's around addiction, mental health, and that people can't recover, that people are who they are, that you have to let them hit rock bottom, all those stigmatizing messages that we've heard. But one of the things that I love, irregardless of who it may be or what the situation is, I really try to stay in a frame. And this is one of my favorite quotes, is that no one can go back and make a brand new start. We all can start where we are today and create a brand new ending. So as you're thinking about this and you're thinking about the people that we work with on a day-to-day basis, we can't take them back to the inception of birth, but we can start where they are and help them have a more rewarding and meaningful life and have an even better, greater ending. So what is recovery? We know the language. We know that recovery is really around a holistic, non-linear approach, right? A deeply personal journey that involves improving a person's well-being, striving and to live a fulfilling life. SAMHSA defines recovery as a process of change that helps people improve their health and wellness, live a self-directed life. I want you to remember that self-directed life, and reach their full potential. Remember, full potential, right? And when I think about full potential, I think about my meaning, my purpose. What is it that I need at the end of the day to say that I have been successful, that I'm happy, that my family is happy? What are those things that are most rewarding to me, right? And so when I think about a person who's in recovery, what is it that's most rewarding to them? How can I help them live this life that they're self-directed, not what Dr. Taya said, not what my counselor said. Those are tools, those are tips, that's support. But what is it that I can do to live this life of being self-directed and really reach my full potential? And so I start with, for premises and foundation, really around the 4 pillars of recovery. This is SAMHSA. You know, in 2010, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services deemed the 4 pillars of recovery as health, which meaning managing their health conditions, making some informed child choices. What are those healthy habits? You know, those vegetables and all of those diet, physical things, right? And thinking about home, making sure that they have a safe, stable, and supportive environment to thrive in, right? Making sure that they have a place to live, that they're connected to support in that particular space, in that particular environment. The community, right? When I think about community, one of the things that we really push at the African American Behavioral Health Center of Excellence are a lot of non-traditional ways of healing, non-traditional ways of treatment and recovery, is because oftentimes when you think about African Americans, we do, and we'll talk about this a little later, we do heal better in community. We need that level of support, but people in general oftentimes need that level of support in order to thrive. And then the one that we'll be spending some time on today is really around purpose, right? Finding that meaning and that purpose through the work that they do, through whether it's volunteer services, whatever it is that's meaningful to them on a day-to-day basis. That's what they do. And that's the thing that I want us to draw in today, is looking at how purpose really can help form a even healthier and more impactful recovery journey. And these 4 pillars we know are meant to are a foundation for recovery, change, and a healthier life. So here we go. What's purpose got to do with it, right? This is like Tina Turner said, what's love got to do? Okay, that's not what you all call me here to do today with sing, so I'll just stay on track. What's purpose got to do with any and all of this? This purpose really aligns with people living a self-directed life. We talked about that previously, reaching their full potential, understanding really what gives their life meaning. So as a clinician, when individuals come to us for therapy and they come to us and we start to creating our treatment plans, one of the first questions you really, what I like to ask is, what gives your life meaning? That help us really formulate and start to make this thing more personal. We attach it to almost what we like to often say, what is their why, right? And when we think about our why, we often think sometimes we think about our children. We think about maybe we're doing it for our moms, but sometimes we don't just think about collectively who we are and why something is important to us. Why am I even doing this? Why did I show up today? Showed up today because I love talking about and helping people find recovery, but more so because Mr. Ask You asked me. So that's my why. That's another one of my driving factors as to why I'm here. But that gave it meaning because it provided a platform to share what it is that we need to help people thrive in recovery. And when we identify what that why is, it oftentimes it provides more meaning and have more value. So it leads us to begin to develop a life filled with more purpose, right? And it provides that level of meaning that, you know what, it's no longer about me. It's attached to something else that's even greater than me. But the caveat to that, I oftentimes think too, is that we don't get the opportunity. We don't need to tell them what that is. We need to help guide them, providing them with the adequate questions, asking those questions so they can fully understand what is it, what would recovery mean to me, right? And so start to gear and to steer them more into understanding that purpose-driven life, right? That purpose-driven journey around recovery, right? This has a purpose for me. This is really aligned with my actions, my choices, and my goals. So we start to create that treatment plan. We start to work with them around finding a sense of meaning and a personal mission for their recovery. We understand what the research has said about recovery, but how do we take that and allow them the opportunity to sit with that? And what does that mean for you? How can you develop some goals, some positive goals around recovery for yourself, around your actions, with your choices, and set those goals to have a more personal meaning? And it means to really helping them identify and pursuing what truly matters to them, right? We may have a lot of suggestions, a lot of examples, a lot of strategies, but unless they with what it means for them, then it's almost sometimes useless. They're just going sometimes with emotions. Yes, we can contribute, but I think when they realize that their recovery is tied to something that's larger than themselves, and they can find fulfillment in that process, it resonates more with them, and it becomes more of a personal journey and one that's even more worth fighting. So what is a meaningful life, right? So when I think about purpose-driven, I think about we're adding meaning to something, right? And now we're talking about our life. So I'm purpose-driven, trying to define and think about why this is so meaningful for me. Why does this meaningful recovery journey, is this important for me? And so when you think about, and you're helping individuals who are seeking recovery, in recovery, or with treatment plans, you think about that there are three components to having a meaningful life. That's their goal direction, which means that they're looking and they need to set some goals. That's relying on their learning to achieve their goals, right? And they're thinking about, what is it that I want to obtain? In order to have this whole purpose-driven, this whole meaningful life, what are some of those goals? So we help direct them toward those goals. We help them work on those goals. And the second component of that is mattering. Mattering is letting them know that they're significant, they're valued, and they're important, not only in their recovery journey, but we work through their relationships. How do you feel like you're significant and valued in your relationships? What are those relationships that are valuable to you during this journey? What are those things? What are those people? Who are those people that are valuable to you? How does those relationships impact your journey and for you to be able to have a purpose-driven, meaningful life? At work, if they're working, how do you feel valued? How do you see yourself of significance on your job? And even in life in general, right? Because if they've gone through the journey of usage of substance use, now we're at the point where, you know what, I'm ready for recovery. but we have to identify and help them identify with who are the people, what are the things that they value, who do they value, and why are those things important? And then what's the overall one's life making sense? Why does this make sense? What's the significance of this journey for me, right? Why am I looking and seeking for a purpose-driven, meaningful life, right? What does all this have to do with recovery? Getting to know who you are, what it is that you desire, what it is that you value, and why is this important to you? And as I was doing some research for this, I found this amazing, it tied it all together for me, right? That when you're starting to build a purpose-driven, meaningful life, so you know you can have a life that's filled with purpose, right? That you think that you've found your purpose, you think that some people chase their purpose and looking for their purpose for years. And so even in preparing for this, I sat down and I started to think about, how did I land here, right? And why am I here? And so I started to do some reflection, right? And I thought about all of the jobs, all of the places that I've been led up to me in some capacity helping somebody. So as I thought about all the way back to when I was volunteering, when I was younger, when I was hungry for this, even through all of my career choices and where I landed, they all ended up being in a helping field. Lo and behold, I became a what? I became a therapist. And then now that I'm running the centers, they're all about helping, pouring back, providing hope, providing strength, doing something to make individuals' life a lot better, alleviating stigma, alleviating social determinants. So when I thought about that, my purpose has been identified, but what makes that very meaningful for me, right? Why is that meaningful? And those are the things. I can be purpose-driven, but if it doesn't have a meaning, it's null and void. So that's why we're saying we're building a purpose-driven, meaningful life. And a meaningful life is found through our sense of purpose, efficacy, the things that we value, and positive self-worth. So let's dig into that a little bit further. What do you mean, Dr. Tyus, when you're talking about efficacy, right? So self-efficacy, we all know that's one's belief about the ability to resume an action after a setback. Self-efficacy is also the belief we have in our abilities and our competencies, right? So you're thinking someone who may be fresh on the recovery journey. What do you think? And you could just drop it in the chat. What are some of the things that potentially are going through their mind? I'm not worthy. I'm just starting out. I've fallen before. I may not be able to do this. All of those things that they're repeating in their mind. But one of the things that we need to help them build up their inner man to believe that they have this level of self-confidence. We got to help them build up their inner man, their confidence, and helping them focus on what their belief and their capacity to succeed really is, right? So we need to help them build that up, that you are successful. You can do this. Take one step at a time. Find those mantras, find those quotes, help build up their inner man so that they can have that self-efficacy that they need on this particular journey. The theory's core concept really is that people are more likely to do activities in which they have high self-efficacy and the things that they feel like they have less self-efficacy. And that oftentimes comes from that self-confidence. And really, and one example that I put here is an example includes someone who believes that they can successfully learn a new skill, right? So mine would be yoga. Thought that was the hardest thing for me. Oh, that hurt so bad, I wasn't going back. But I liked the way that it made me feel. So the more I went back, it built my confidence. You know, I was in there with some younger people. They were moving all over the place. I'm like, oh, my neck hurt. I can't do this. But then I started to build up my self-confidence. And I'm like, you know what? I can go in there because this helped me manage my stress. It helped me cope with difficult situations. It's a breather for me. So I continue to go back every day. No, I haven't gotten all those poses executed, but I have more confidence that in time I'll get better. But I like what it makes me feel like, right? And I know that I need that. So what we're doing is the more I showed up, the more confidence I had, and it helped build up my self-efficacy. So you see how I get a little hyped about this because I'm really just excited about the work that we do and how we're instilling this level of hope. And then you think about value, right? The beliefs and principles that people believe are important in the way that they live and work. But when I think about value and I think about some of the people that I work with, when I think about the people who we're fighting for every day to be successful on their recovery journey, what are those things that they value the most, right? So and I'll just talk about myself. In our home, we value education. So it was only right. My parents instilled in us education is a value. This is how you get there. This is what you need in order to get here, to get there. So what? I go and obtain the highest degree that a person could possibly have obtain because we value education. So when we think about the people during the recovery, ask the question, what are some of those things that you value? What are some of those things that as you were coming up, that your family, what were your family values? What are your personal values? Honesty and integrity are two values, and that they encourage people to be truthful in their life. Ask the question, well, do you value honesty? What does that look like for you? And what does that look like for the people who you are involved in relationships? What are your expectations around honesty, right? What are your expectations around people with a high level of integrity? And so, and that really governs us as individuals, as people, really around how we live our lives. When we think about honesty and integrity, what does that look like? How does that show up in your recovery? Being honest, we know, is critical to recovery as individuals face the effects of addiction and look at the things that have impacted their lives and those people that are around them. So how they value that speaks a lot of volume around the level and the type of recovery journey that they're on. Self-worth, right? We talked about self-confidence, but self-worth is often confused oftentimes with having high self-esteem, which often relies on some external factors, such as the success. So success, achievement, all those things are defined in our worth, right? And so it's the internal sense of being good enough and worthy of love and belonging from others. We all look for self-worth. It is the motivation that drives us to be better, to do better, to try new things, to kindle new relationships, and really that's what pushes us forward, our self-worth. How we see that people see us, how we want to feel, how we want to be received, all of that is important. It's that internal self saying, you know what, I am good enough. I deserve love. I deserve to be on this treatment journey. I deserve everything that's coming to me. I deserve this new job. But before you can get there, we have to ask them those questions around hope, those questions around what does a positive, productive journey look like for you? What does that really look like? What is purpose to you? What are those things that are purposeful for you? And we build all of these factors in, right? And so we start to talk about, there are 4 types of self-related beliefs, right? And when we start to think about self-worthiness, the first one is identity. Who do I think that I am? And what are those things that I like about myself, right? That's my personal introspective thought, which will take some honesty, which will take some truth. Spend some time asking people these questions. When they come to you and they're looking for treatment and you're working with them to stay positive and stay sober, these are the things that you ask. Who do you think you are? What are the things that you like? What are your self-confidence? Right where their self-confidence is, their efficacy. What are the things that they have been telling themselves? How have they changed the narrative from what they were thinking about what they could do and who they were when they were in their journey of addiction? But now that they are on the road to recovery and they're in recovery, what do you see about yourself? What do you believe? What are those beliefs? What is your belief system? How are you evaluating yourself? What is your self-esteem, right? Where are you? And then this can oftentimes change according to sometimes situations, things that we potentially may have set out to do that may not have come past or turned out the way that we wanted it to. That can go either way. It can go up and down. One day I may be feeling good. The next day I may be feeling bad, right? When I didn't get a grant that I thought I was going to get, of course my self-esteem may go down. But because of that self-confidence and the ability to go out and look for more grants or to do something different, I immediately am able to shift the narrative. And then self-compassion. What are those bad things? What are those things that I think about myself? Forgiving myself, that's when that grace comes in, right? That level of grace, gratitude shows up, right? Teaching individuals who are in recovery to have a purpose-driven, meaningful life, teaching them how to have self-compassion. Things that happen. Don't beat yourself up. Let's get up. That's my thing. That's my motto. Okay, Dr. Tyus, you can beat yourself across the head all the time. And then we got to get up, girl, because we still need to eat. We still have to work. We still have a family to run. So we have to just keep moving. So we've talked about all that, and we've set up a foundation of what building a purpose-driven, meaningful life is. So now you ask me, well, Dr. Tyus, you've given me all of this information. We've talked about things that people need to do, but how do we really just do this besides asking all of these questions? So these are really practical, intentional strategies that sometimes you don't have a lot of time with the person. Sometimes it's just in conversation, individuals, or you make, hey, you know what? I know that my brother's in long-term recovery. He'll call me, has a situation. I see his asset going down. I see that he's beating himself up. I may just simply say, you know what? Take a moment, be quiet, sit in stillness, and just breathe. Collect your thoughts. As simple as that. Instead of, oh, you need to go see your therapist. That may be true. You may need to get an appointment with your therapist, but she may not be available right now. So what are these intentional, meaningful strategies that we can share with individuals? So thank you all for asking. I'll just go to the next slide. So that's the how. The first thing we want to do is really cultivate mindfulness and presence. And these are wellness strategies, right? So we know that we're building in a lot of wellness practices, which are oftentimes those non-traditional practices beyond getting into treatment, beyond the therapy. But what are these day-to-day things that we can provide people to empower them, to build their self-worth, to help them identify, to lessen anxiety, to lessen stress, right? Mindfulness, breathing, deep techniques, all of those things are amazing, right? And there are so many different apps out there that are free. So if you're a clinician on this webinar today, I just challenge you and do a call to action to develop you a resource list, right? Develop a resource list where individuals can actually access those apps themselves, right? And the first one we'll talk about is that mindfulness, which are some grounding techniques and some tools that are used for visualization. We know what mindfulness is, but sometimes it's hard to turn your mind off. But the more you do it, the better you become at it. And it's not something that you have to do for a long period of time. Sometimes really grounding yourself, sitting still, shutting everything off, because I see that I forgot to cut my email off and it keeps dinging. But those things become distractions. So how can you alleviate those distractions so that you can simply teach your client to do that, right? So I can hear somebody I know in the chat, they're saying, well, Dr. Tyus, everybody doesn't have access to apps. No, everybody don't have access to apps, but you can teach people to actually do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? We learned those grounding techniques, to sit still for 5, be quiet, keep your eyes closed, because that helps them return to a present state, a present moment. And the more time a person spends with self, the more time they really can focus on reconnected physically and emotionally. For me, sometimes that is so hard. One of the hardest things that I've had to learn how to do is turn my brain off and go to bed. But deep breathing and mindfulness and yoga has helped me. You would have told me that 10 years ago, I'd probably be an yoga expert now. But now that I do know, you know better, you do better. So helping finding those grounding and self-awareness, and some of those apps we know are Mindspace, Calm. There are so many different apps that are out there. I think there's one, a free meditation coach that's out there that would be perfect. But even so, creating a playlist, right? That's as simple as listening to some soothing jazz, listening to whatever music that you're interested in, but that can put you in a calm state. The second one is strategy 2 is really setting some intentional goals, right? I know that we've all know about the SMART system, right? The SMART system is really around, we know it's been beaten in my head, Dr. Tyus, are those things SMART? Are they measurable? Are they attainable? Are they realistic? Are they time-based? And my answer would probably say no. I just know what I need to get done, but then they send me back to the SMART goals. But in doing research, and a while back for another presentation, I ran into, and some of you may be way above the curve than I am, because again, I was caught up on the SMART goals, PAT goals. And I said, oh, this is interesting. So we started teaching a class in just specifically around PAT, right, for my leadership team. And so it tied perfectly with this presentation is because PAT, it ties more to purpose, right? It really takes us back to what's the deep purposeful meaning. And that's why PAT means purposeful. Your goal has a long-term effect because you tied it to something else that has more of a meaning for you, right? It creates more of a meaning for you, right? And what we're really doing this for, it's actionable, right? Your goal is based on output. But the thing about this that I like is because you can control that. What are these actions? This is the goal, and it's actionable, but I can control how I can meet that outcome, right? What action am I going to put forward to meet that outcome? The C is for continuity, right? Continuous, excuse me. That's consistency. That means we got to continue to be consistent, continue to do it, right? Continuity. Those are important when we're setting PAT goals. How consistent can I be? So if you know that you're not going to exercise for 1 hour every single day, you're not going to reach that desired outcome. But you can control that, remember, that the action by saying, you know what? I know that I can be more consistent in meeting that goal by doing 15 minutes a day and gradually increasing that. So that now that we've increased, that there's a greater chance of meeting that outcome because we were able to control the action that we put forward and be more consistent in doing so. And then the T is for trackable, being able to track our goals and our progress, right? And being able to say, yes, woohoo, I can check that off. So if you're like me, anytime I have a to-do list and I'm checking, that's my self-gratification. I get a smiley face at the end of the day. So those are just little things that, help me stay on track with meeting those goals. And you use the PAT goals, which appear to be, for me and my team, a whole lot more doable than thinking about SMART, measurable. That just sounds like that's a lot of work, right? We know that those SMART goals work, but if we tie it more to a purpose, it gives it more meaning. Building a support system, right? When we think of people who are in recovery, most people that you would ask, right, they recover with support. We deem support as people in community. People that can be from your church, that can be from a plethora, whoever you get to decide who is a part of that community. But one of the things that I know that people really need as they're on developing and living a purpose-driven, meaningful life of recovery is they need community. We need each other, right? As a clinician, as professionals, what do? We need each other. We usually do heal in those communities. And I keep saying about African American, we're doing a series now at the center that we're building, healing in communities for African American communities. I need my church, right? That's part of me. That's part of my inner man. I like to go. I like to receive what I receive from my church community. I like my girlfriend community, my square. I love to go out with my girlfriends. That's my deep breather. I can be authentically who I am. And people, different communities play different roles in your life. You have these communities for different reasons. But they get to identify who is a part of their support system, whether it's their family, their friends, it could be mentors or recovery coaches. It could be their recovery mentor. It could be their partner. But the community, we know, provides a sense of belongingness, acceptance, and understanding that we need that for healing and growth. Everybody needs different levels of that, but we do need that in order to thrive. And we need to push the message as people are developing this life that joining a community gives you some connectivity with your peers, people who face similar challenges, right? So if I pick up the phone and I call Mr. Askew today, although, SAMHSA is the funding source, when he was in the community setting, I may say, you know what, how did you feel about, what did you go through when you were waiting to hear for a grant or something of that nature? I'm just talking about my professional life, right? I'm sure we will have similar experiences. Raising children. How many of you, I see your internet hands, have children who are now adults, but they still call on you to help pay bills? They're calling you to do anything. But I need to call my girlfriend and say, hey, how are you navigating this? So that's a part of my support system. But they have different meanings, right? And so we encourage people to do that, to share their experiences. They get, when they are in community, they get an opportunity to do that. I see people are raising their hands, so hopefully that's that internet hand telling me that they have kids who are like mine. And also a part of communities can be around getting involved, volunteering. It's okay. Just because you're in long-term recovery, one thing is you're human, you're a person. You get to experience everything that I get to experience on a day-to-day basis. Go and volunteer. Connect with organizations that not only are purpose-driven for you, but make you feel like you have a sense of purpose and fulfillment. But also those community events, those activities that expose you to new people and opportunities for connection. Community provides connection. So look for those, encourage them to look for community opportunities, really volunteer opportunities that resonate with their interests and their values. Because remember, we said that interests and values are a part of who we are part of our purpose. We're driven by that. And then also being a part of community, it helps us practice openness and vulnerability, right? Building a support network requires vulnerability, and here comes that big word again, right? When I said ask them what honesty means to them, in order to be vulnerable, you have to be what? Honest. So being open about your struggles, being able to share those things about your challenges with trusted individuals, people that you trust, people that may share similar experiences, but people who don't, you won't hesitate to ask for help if needed. That's sometimes I can trust you if I'm asking you for help, right? There are people who we talk to on a daily basis, but we don't trust them, so we don't share those things. So as we're teaching individuals to build this level of life, listen, look for the people that you trust, not just the people who are in community, but trusted community. You can volunteer in any activity in a community, but you may not feel as vulnerable and as honest with everybody in that community. So being able to identify those core people are key and critical to being able to have a thriving support community. And so even sharing your journey authentically, you allow others to support you in meaningful ways, right? Being authentic, being vulnerable, right? And then also one of the things that we're really pushing with our HBCU project around mental health and substance use is really participating in sober activities on campuses, right? So letting people know who are developing this life, who are creating this life for themselves, it is okay to engage in sober activities and hobbies. And that's a great way that they can expand their social circle, right? So some people who are early in the journey, you can't go to the Christmas party because people at the Christmas parties that you're accustomed to, they have alcohol. So find those sober Christmas parties that you can go to where they have activities in exchange for alcohol. That is filled with activities. You're connecting with people who have similar experiences, and that means that has meaning to you. You value that level of opportunity because it helps fulfill the purpose that's for your life, right? So you can look for those like-minded individuals. You can look for those communities activities and look for opportunities to have sober socializing activities and help them to understand what are some of those tips for creating boundaries within their support system, right? So when we think about community, in general, we have a lot of people, like all the people around this table, who can be a part of communities, but also as you're developing and as you're looking for support, making sure that they're very clear about what their boundaries are. And that boundary is set around the people that they're going to be open to, the people that they're going to be vulnerable to. What's the boundary around that? What are the characteristics of people that you're looking for in your system, in your support system? So all of those things are key as we're clinicians, that we're also making sure that we're helping them to identify. Strategy 4 is teaching people how to really develop an emotional resilience. Emotional resilience is their ability to respond to stressful or unexpected situations and crises. How many times do we, whether we're in recovery or not, have situations that create crises and we don't know how to respond, right? We know that we get chaotic depending upon what the situation is, but knowing that we have the ability to bounce back from that adversity encourages me enough to say that I am resilient and that I have the ability to deal with no matter what the situation is, whether it was unexpected or not, it's going to work out. That goes back to that self-confidence. I'm worthy of whatever has happened, whatever is to come, I'm worthy to receive that, right? So as a clinician, and I keep talking about clinicians because I'm thinking that in a lot of our jobs that we leave our clients to do this themselves, but we need to work them through this process. And so the way that I help develop emotional resilience with my clients is really to work from a strength-based perspective, looking at strength-based therapy approaches, right? Working with my client to really identify what are their strengths, what are you strong at, what are those capabilities, and I promote independence there. And I demonstrate and we work through how those particular strengths can be used in a variation of crises and situations. And the way that we can also help individuals build emotional resiliency is by practicing positivity, showing them the things that, what are those things that they appreciate, just how strong they are, and know that they can get through again, whatever's happening. Think of what could be a positive outcome to something that just may have appeared to be negative. Help them switching the narrative to think more positive about the outcome versus negatively. We know this has happened, but let's just take a minute. Let's breathe, let's collect ourselves, let's think about what is the worst case scenario and how can this really end up being a positive outcome versus us immediately going to something negative. And sometimes we're just wired that way. Oh, I know that I'm not going to be able to feed my family because I lost my job. You may not, that may be your initial thought, but the positive outcome could potentially be, you know what? Maybe my season is over in this job and I have the abilities and the skills to go and find something, maybe at a different level of pay, but that's still positive because the end result is to provide food for my family. And then the third strategy around practicing positivity is understanding that they'll learn something from this experience and that whatever they've been through, everything that where they have landed in their recovery journey, they've learned through the things that they've gone through, and it has not broken them. They are here and realize that they can really trust themselves and trust that it's going to work out positively. Okay, I got a few more slides. I got about 10 minutes. And then sometimes you just need to give yourself a good old break, right? This is hard for me. But each day we need to get up every day thinking, you know what? It is okay to give ourselves a break. We've been through so much. When we're feeling tired, stressed out, worried, or we're being too hard, teach your clients and yourself to sometimes just take a break. Remember that despite how you feel, you're valuable and you deserve good things. But sometimes we have such chaos that are going on in our lives around us. It may not even be something that you caused, but it's the environment in which we're thriving that we just can't think positively. I understand outside. Everybody don't wake up smiling. Everybody don't wake up every day. We wake up sometimes thinking about what the day is going to bring. But sometimes if we just step back, practice a space of gratitude and say, you know what, today I'm going to factor in some level of rest for me. Even if that means that I'm most accustomed to, and I'm only preaching to the choir, that's me, I'm most accustomed to walking in the office, working all day, eating my lunch at my desk, but now I'm trying to implement small increments, at least 2 days a week, taking my lunch outside and taking me what I call a B2. That's a brain break and a body break, right? My brain needs to just settle down and my body needs to just be at a calm state. When I go back upstairs, I can pick that up. But being able to, and that is all of this that I'm saying, is what works best for you, what works best for your client. Allow them the ability to factor those things in as to what works best for them. And strategy 5 is really embracing a purpose-driven life, right? It's saying, hey, this is what I need. This is what I deserve. I'm going to embrace this. I'm going to work toward this. And how do you do that? Thank you for asking, Dr. Tyus. It goes back to what we originally stated. I'm hoping that you're seeing how meaning and purpose, they're syncing, they're aligned for people to be able to develop this life, right? And define that for them. They need to be able to define the meaning and the purpose of their own lives. And then some of us need to do that too. Explore what career, hobbies, or volunteers sync and align with our purpose. I know I love what I'm doing every day, but I still see clients because that fulfills my purpose. I don't get to see clients. So 2 nights a week to fulfill my purpose, to feel like to keep not only my clinical skills sharp, but to feel like that meaning that I've worked so hard, that purpose of helping people, that I'm able to feel and grow myself, that my first love is therapy. So I still see clients. Figure out and help your clients discover what is it that aligns with their purpose. And then also identify the three things. And so this is a great journaling exercises for you, for your client. But every night, think about from a space of gratitude. Think about what gave you the greatest joy during the day and what had the most meaning for you during the day, right? And that keeps us in that space of gratitude, understanding what our purpose is, and it gives us energy to continue to move forward in living a purpose-driven, meaningful life. Sustained recovery, we know what sustained recovery is, right? Our whole goal is to help our clients or ourselves abstain from all mind and mood-altering substances to sustain a changed life, which will bring about a sense of balance, control, and consciousness, right? Being in our right mind, being able to live out the fulfillment of what our life entails and what it is that we deem for our life. So just what I said is really teaching our clients to live a sustained recovery life in conjunction to living a purpose-driven life, because this is what we want them to do. We want them to have all absences, and I'm sorry, I just realized I talked with my hand a lot, absences from the mood and mind-altering substances, but now we're teaching them, you know what, as you're abstaining for this is what life holds. This is what you can have, right? And how these are just some practical tools for sustaining recovery is each day get in the process of doing some gratitude journaling, the things that we just talked about. Physical activity, whether you're walking, jogging, running, yoga, whatever is important to you. We're really good about oftentimes, and I have to tell my staff this, we're really good about telling people what they need, but how often do we sit down and host focus groups to see exactly what people are saying that they need, right? So now one of our main goals, we don't develop products, we don't do anything without us trying to have some level of conversations around people's lived experiences. And when we're creating major projects, right? Like some of our women's and men's projects, we host focus groups. I need to hear from the people who have endured some suffering, not just what the books and the research tell me, but what is it that you actually see that would be of value to you so that you can create and have this level of a life, right? And we talked about those mindfulness and the self-compassion practices. And we talked about really making sure that you are part of a recovery-oriented community, that you're involved in programs, that you're involved in activities that propels your recovery in a positive way, right? That is playing and adding value to everything that you're building, right? And that is key. So when we think about chaos, you have to check in with your clients on a day-to-day basis. What are some of those chaotic things that are hindering or putting up roadblocks from you not being able to fulfill your life purpose and to live your life whole, right? And so just making sure we're incorporating those things. And I've said all of that to get to this, the power of hope, right? From the out the gate running, we know we need to instill hope, but you don't instill hope. It's not a one-all, done-all. Throughout the journey, you're making sure that you're infusing, that you're empowering your clients to have a level of hope that they can do this, right? And when you provide hope, you're fostering and fueling resilience and motivation. We know what resilient is. Being resilient, we talked about that strong. It's the process and outcome of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences. We're providing hope to let them know that they can get through that, whether it's mental, emotional, behavioral, or they're having to make some adjustments internally, externally, whatever those demands are. And according to the American Psychological Association, it's basically as simple as adapting to change. And there are 4 types of resilience. We won't get into them, but they're physical resilience, mental resilience, emotional resilience, and social resilience. And we know that motivation, right? The motivation that we have, sometimes people aren't self-motivated, but it's our job to provide that level of hope and motivation that initiate and guide people to become goal-oriented, and that they know that it's an internal condition that they have to have a desire to change themselves or their environment. And hope is really around encouraging a future envision of growth for that person, helping them to envision that, helping them to see that, helping them to believe that, helping them to know that they're worthy of that, right? And I did really good because I'm about to get to the last slide around, this is so amazing for me, from Desmond Tutu. When I think about hope, my therapy practice is called Everything Therapy, and it's around happiness, healing, and hope. And the hope is last is because I want people to be able to, despite their journey, to be able to see that there is light despite all of the darkness that they've gone through. They deserve to see the twinkling of a light. Sometimes it's going to shine bright. Sometimes it may click a little bit because the bulb is starting to dim. But more than anything, find that light. You can change your light bulb and hold on to your hope. So that's all that I hope that I have for you today. But my hope is that I have provided some level of strategy for you. My hope is that I have provided a sense of helping individuals find a purpose-driven life that has a life of meaning. So thank you, and that's it. I'll turn it back over to SAMHSA.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tyus. That was very insightful and very enlightening. And based on all of the comments that we got in the chat, I think we can all agree that this was very reaffirming. So thank you so much. A couple of things. We do have one question, but before we get to that, if you can, please fill out the evaluation form that Katera has put in the chat, and we will also be providing the slides. It will be posted on the SAMHSA recovery site. And with the question, this was, Dr. Tice, when you were talking about building a purpose-driven life, we got a question from Kristen P., who said, what does recovery mean to them? That makes a lot of sense to me. Can you provide some examples of some of the responses you've heard to that question?
Yes, perfect. So, and I'll just take it back to my little brother. So as I was developing this, one of the things I talked to him about, I said, well, what does purpose mean to you, right? As you're trying to live this life of purpose, he indicated immediately that he used to try to live a life that was based on the things that we wanted, because all of us have attained higher degrees with the exception of him. He's the baby. And he said, I tried to, my purpose was tied to you all, the things that you all like, the things and the models that I've seen you all, the examples, Dr. Tyus, that you've done. He said, and then when I finally was introduced to hope, that provided me that my life doesn't have to be a mock of the examples that I've seen before me. I can build my own life. And that becomes a self-purpose life for me. I have my own purpose. It's tied to values that we have, but some of the values have even shifted, right? So as we know, as we get older, some of those values that my mom taught me, I think education is still important. But now my narrative has changed for that, right? For my own kids who are grown. Mine has started to say, as long as you are self-sufficient, God-fearing, a good stand-up citizen, and you can feed yourself, that is fine with me, right? That's fine with me. So that value shifted. I didn't say that I didn't value education, but everybody didn't have to go and obtain these higher degrees. So I know that I kind of probably took the question, but I think it has personal meaning that's different for each one of us if we start asking. I know a lot of my clients, sometimes they're in the inception, in the beginning of their journey, they may say, I don't even see any purpose, Dr. Tyus, right now. I don't see that I even have a purpose for living. I'm just trying to get through this day by day. So you also have to find at what part of the journey you start trying to gear them toward that. But hope is always at the forefront, always instilling that level of hope. So I hope that answered the question for you, Crystal.
Thank you. And Teresa, you have your hand raised. Not sure if it was from before or if you have a question. Might have been from before. So Michael, would you like to close this out?
Well, thank you, Dr. Tyus, and all that have participated and really relevated in the moment of this discussion. I had to come in and out due to other commitments, but thank you, Dr. Tyus, for that strong, motivating presentation purpose. I really appreciate your spirit and the way you delivered the message of hope For all of us here at SAMHSA, we thank you all for participating. Once again, we have other recovery webinar series presentations coming up tomorrow and Thursday and next week actually as well. So feel free to join us again. And thank you once again for participating and filling out that evaluation, which is so critical for us to understand your needs as well as ours. Thank you so much. And I'll turn it back to you, Grace Lee.
All right, thanks. Thank you all so much, and hope to see you tomorrow at our next webinar. Bye.